Yo everybody and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Steins Gate 0. When we last left off, we are going down the last path available for us after receiving the D-Rhine, and things are getting pretty crazy. Akibara was in an uproar. There were lots of helicopters in the sky that probably belonged to the media. We escaped to the lab, making sure that no one was following us. It hadn't been that long since we were attacked at the hotel. If the cops found us at the scene of another crime like that, they'll be suspicious for sure. So we ran before the police arrived. Suzanne wasn't at the lab. Maybe she sensed what was going on outside and gone to check on the time machine. We held our breath and waited. It felt like if we let anyone know we were here, more scary people would burst down the door and charge in. Ishida, do you have any towels here? Yeah, in the washroom. Maho nodded and brought a new towel from the washroom. She handed it to me. Okay, your neck's bleeding. Put this on it. Huh? Oh, thanks. My neck was wet with blood. Fortunately, it wasn't a deep wound, so it wasn't long before it stopped. After handing me a towel, Maho sat down right on the floor and didn't move. I knew how she felt, especially since this was the second time she'd been attacked. At this time, people had died right in front of her. Are you okay, Hayajo? Yeah. She nodded, hesitantly, but her face was deathly pale. And I realized that she'd been clutching her left hand into her fist this whole time, and there was blood coming out of it. Did you get hurt? Show me. Oh. Evidently, she hadn't noticed she'd been hurt. She was looking at her left hand, confused. Huh? What's wrong? My fingers won't move. That's strange. Maho had been holding some small fragment in her left hand. Her hand had frozen around it and wouldn't move. Soon, it started to shake. I grabbed her hand and forced it open finger one by one. Wherever it was, she'd been clutching it so tightly that she'd cut off the blood flow to her fingers. They were very cold. When I finally forced her hand open, the thing she was holding fell onto the floor. What was it? I picked it up. It was a red piece of magnesium alloy. It was a piece of Chris's laptop. She must have grabbed it off the ground when she was running away. If she held something so sharp tightly for so long, of course she was going to bleed. Ow. I returned it to Maho without a word. She took the broken fragment and cradled it in her hands, then stared at it with an empty expression. Suddenly, a single line of tears dropped down her cheek. After that, it didn't stop. She continued to sob. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you. I'm so sorry. It was as if that tiny fragment was Krisu herself. She held it to her chest and kept crying. Hiyajo. I'm sure Krisu feels relieved. Huh? She's glad you're safe. You don't need to apologize. There's nothing to apologize about. She didn't respond. Instead, a phone started to vibrate. Oh, it's mine. Mao took out her cell phone and looked at the message she received. It's from Dr. Linskin. What's wrong? He says the office and hotels were ransacked. His and mine. They're a mess, he says. I see. Whether it was the Rounders, the Russians, or whoever had first surrounded the cosplay shop, they must have been after Chris's laptop and hard drive. There's no backup of that computer's data, right? That's right. Then this is for the best. What Chrisu left behind won't be used as a tool to kill billions of people. In the end, I got what I wanted. The doubter was destroyed before anyone got their hands on it. There was so little left that I'm sure there would be no way to restore it. Wait, why did the Russians destroy that computer? They only want to get their hands on it? Russians in the lead in the race for the time machine right now. From their perspective, it would be great if they could get the laptop, but their priority, they'd probably rather destroy it than let someone else get their hands on it, right? They probably wanted to avoid a protracted gunfight with the rounders in broad daylight in Japan. The cold way they made the decisions made me shiver. They really were professional soldiers. An amateur couldn't do that. So what do we do now? I'd rather not stay here if I can avoid it. Russia might not know about this place, but Mocha might. If the routers were on the move, then Tanuji downstairs might be involved too. We'll move at sunset. It would have been great if Suza had come back, but I couldn't get in touch with her. Oh. Maho was sinking into a warm bathtub. She could finally feel blood flowing through her body again. The heat melted the tension away from her muscles. Her injured hand hurt a little, but it wasn't unbearable. She felt like she'd come back to life. Once the sun had set, Maho and Rintaro had gone to Ferris, the cat-aid May at May Queen plus Nyan Squared, for help. Ferris's home was on the top of a high-rise condo building in the prime of Akibara real estate. From a security perspective, it was superior to the Future Gadget Lab in every way imaginable. Ferris welcomed the two of them in, offering them food and a place to sleep. And now, she had offered them a bath. What about Daru? Maho was a little worried about Itaru Hishida. He insisted on staying to wait for his younger sister Suzaha, and remained alone in the Future Gadget Lab. More than an hour had passed since then. Had Rintaro heard anything? Even if they'd moved, that didn't mean this place was safe. The group from this afternoon could attack at any time. She couldn't help but feel nervous. And that made her feel terrified and vulnerable as she sat naked in a bath. She got out of the bathtub and hurried to the changing room to wipe herself down. She tried to put on the change of underwear Ferris had given her. And her hands started to shake. Then her knees buckled and she fell to the ground. This is extreme muscle relaxation after a period of elevated tension and then sudden release. She tried to stay calm by analysing herself, but that didn't mean that she could do anything but lie down. This is bad. Alarm bells were going off in her head. She was just about giving up, knowing that this would pass within time when Ferris popped her head in. Maho, how's the water? Ferris screamed and started to panic when she saw Maho naked and lying on the floor. Oh no! She's going to die! Maho's going to die! No. It's fine. Maho's voice was so weak that Ferris didn't even hear her. I need to get her to the bed. Ferris tried to pick up the naked Maho and then slipped and dropped her. Ow. Maho hit the back of her head on the floor. She saw little stars dancing across her field of vision. I'm sorry. Sprawled and naked on the floor, face up, Maho tried to force herself to stand, but her arms were too weak. Listen, this will pass soon. But Ferris wasn't listening. For some reason, she decided to reach around Maho from behind to try dragging her up. And then Rintaro must have heard Ferris screaming because he ran in. What's wrong, Ferris? Eh? She wanted to scream, but all that came out was a tiny whimper. I'm really sorry. I mean it. Ritao lowered his head deeply towards Maho as she lay on the bed. You didn't need to apologize. It was an accident. But she couldn't bear to look him in the face. Just remembering his despair and embarrassment. Just remembering the despair and embarrassment she'd felt when he saw her naked body, made her want to bury her head in a pillow and flail her legs back and forth. To make matters worse, she still hadn't been able to stand up after that, and Mintaro had been forced to carry her to the bed. She'd never been touched by a boy before, and so it was only today that she realized how rugged men's arms were. Rugged? Okabe? Being carried was extremely uncomfortable, to the point where she squirmed around and almost slipped out of his arms. So she had no choice but to curl herself into a ball and let Mintaro do whatever he wanted with her, which made her feel really strange. And now she couldn't even bear to look at his face. Poor Maho. It was my fault for panicking like that. Ferris is sitting next to Mintaro, her face under her knees, with her shoulders slumped. No, it's fine. I'm sorry for scaring you, in fact. You sure you're okay? You don't need to go to the hospital? All the tension caught up with me, is all. I must have really worried you. I'm so embarrassed. There's no point being embarrassed about. Anybody would be scared after what happened today. Anyone would feel sick. Even you? Yeah? I see. Get some rest for now, Nya. You can think about what happened and what we're going to do next after you're feeling better. That's right, yeah. That's what I'll do. Thank you. Maho's closed her eyes. The lights went out and Mintaro and Ferris left the room. She lay on the bed and tried not to think about anything. She could hear the pounding of her heart. It would get louder and then softer. The rhythm was very strange. She could hear the kind of static noise mixed in with her heartbeat, like a broken TV. Was it exhaustion-induced tinnitus? Whatever it was, once she noticed it, she couldn't sleep. Come to think of it, Okabe said he was taking some tranquilizers. She wasn't supposed to do this, but if she looked at the ingredients, she could tell what medication had what effect. Should she take a look and have him lend her some? If that wasn't possible, she could at least get some over the counter and antihistamine meds and use as a sleep aid. She turned over. Don't yell. Do what I tell you, otherwise you're dead. Suddenly she heard a voice break through the unpleasant noise. She gulped and let out of bed. Terror-stricken, Maho tried to call to the door, but her legs won't move like she wanted to. She couldn't stand up. The voice in her ears followed her wherever she went. It was like a wild animal. It was like a wild animal toying with its prey. All of the hairs of her body were standing on end. Her jaw was chattering so hard she bit her tongue. She desperately crawled across the carpet and towards the door. Do I have to kill one of you? Hiyajo, wake up! She woke up and found herself being violently shaken by the shoulders. She looked around the room, panting. She was in bed and Mintaro was looking down at her. Her whole body was sweating and she felt sick. There was a burning sensation deep in her stomach. What's wrong? Someone's here. Rintaro looked around. Ferris came a moment later, as well as an old man who was her butler. But they were simply standing at the entrance of the door, concerned. I'm sure it was just a bad dream. The antique clock on the shelf said at some point it had gone past 1 a.m. She must have slept for hours without realizing it. Yeah, you're right. I guess it was just a dream. She took a painful breath and wiped the sweat off her forehead without realizing that she sounded like a little child. She sent Ferris and the butler back to their rooms. Rintaro brought her towel from the washroom. You're really sweating. You should wipe yourself down. She did, as he said, and wiped the beads of sweat off her face, chest and limbs. As she was deciding whether or not to wipe the inside of her pajamas, Rintaro took the hint and turned around. I'm going back to my room. Call me anytime if you need something. How's Hashida? Oh, I just got word. He met up with Suzuha. See. What are they doing then? Good night. Rintaro was about to leave her bedside, but Maho, she couldn't believe she was doing this, reached out and grabbed the hem of his shirt without thinking. Wait. Please, it doesn't have to be for long. Just stay here. Don't leave me alone. Maho was surprised by the words she was saying, but the thought of spending this terrible night all by herself was too much for her. Rintaro must have understood how she felt, because he nodded without smiling. Fine, I'll stay with you till you fall asleep. Thanks. Sorry for asking you to do this. Oh, he's saying that without opening his teeth. No, it's fine. I had hell of a time getting to sleep myself. It doesn't quite work. I'll turn around, so at least wipe off the sweat. Okay. Well, when Towers stayed back at the door, she took off her pajamas and wiped off the thick layer of sweat that covered her whole body. She decided to put her pajamas on again, but they were too drenched for her to want to wear them. She had no choice but to dive under the covers in nothing but her underwear and bring the comforter way above her chest. It's okay now. Amidst the dim glow of the moonlight, nightlight, Rintaro brought a chair to the side of the bed and sat down. I've been watching over you right here, so you don't need to worry a thing. You'll know you'll be safe, right? You worried? No, I'm fine. Maho's face felt hot from some feeling that she didn't understand. She sank deep into the blanket and turned away from Rintaro. She softly closed her eyes. She could feel his presence behind her. The two of them stopped talking, and the only noise was the distant sound of night coming from beyond the curtain. How long did they spend like this? Just as she was about to fall into a light sleep, she heard a soft voice in her ears. Hyajo, are you still awake? Huh? Yeah. She felt herself waking up again. Damn it, Ocarine! She opened her eyes to turn back towards Rintaro, only to see him staring towards the window. It was as if he was trying to see some sight that lay beyond it. His profile is so handsome. For some reason, that was the thought that came to her. What's wrong? Rintaro seemed unwilling to talk, but Maho decided to speak first. He swallowed loudly. I really meant to tell you this a lot sooner. But I didn't have the courage. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? There's one thing. One thing? There's one thing I haven't told you. Oh, God. Mao leaned forward, not caring that he might see her chest. I told you about the other world lines, and that Krisu, and the Krisu I met there, about the time machine and the time leaps. Yeah. About Krisu and her dad. There's actually one more thing I should have told you, but I just couldn't. His head was slung forward in the chair. Mao waited silently for his next words. Despite the late hour, she heard a helicopter in the distance. For some reason, it sounded really loud. She hadn't seen the news, but it was possible that the media was still talking about the gun battle that had taken place this afternoon. This is something I need to tell you, and you alone. When he finally spoke, his expression was unlike any look she'd ever seen on his face before. It was pain, sad, and suffering, like someone at the bottom of a deep, dark place. And yet there was something in his eyes that hinted at incredible self-hatred and rage. Suddenly her chest felt like it was about to burst from pain. She didn't know what the pain was coming from, but she wanted Rintaro to stop looking like that. That day, at the radio building, the one who killed Krisu was... His hands was forming some kind of shape, like he was holding an invisible knife. The one who killed Krisu was... Enough! She screamed, unable to take it anymore. She rolled out of bed, forgetting how she was dressed, and covered Rintaro's hands with her own. That's enough! Enough, you don't need to say any more. I thought she was going to slap him, that would have been funnier. I don't know why. Figured it would have been funnier. I believe you, so you don't need to tell me. Someday, when the time comes, I'm going to make you tell me whether you want to or not, but that time isn't now. Until that time comes, keep your mouth shut. She strengthened her grasp and forced him to let go of the invisible knife. Rintaro nodded without saying another word. They simply stared at each other for a while. Mao couldn't look away from his gaze. It was as if he was clutching to something, or wandering in search of salvation. She sneezed. You're going to catch a cold. And it was only then that she realized she was holding Rintaro's hand while wearing next to nothing. Rintaro looked a little embarrassed. I'm sorry. She quickly jumped back into the blankets. She curled into a ball and tore at her hair, screaming inside her mind. She let the boy see her naked not once, but twice. This time I'm going to bed. Sorry for bothering you. You're not bothering me at all. But never bring that up again. Okay? Okay? Yeah. Thanks. He's doing the thing again. You need to release the teeth. Thanks, Hayajo. I haven't done anything that you should thank me for. Anyway, good night. Good night. The room got quiet again. The adrenaline rush kept Maho awake. After a while, she heard snores coming from Rintaro's direction. Evidently, he'd fallen asleep. He must have been tired. He went through the same attack that Maho had. Of course he was. His breathing wasn't peaceful at all. It was pained. He had been in the grip of some terrible nightmare. Maho hesitated several times, but finally she turned over and stretched out her hand from the blankets. She softly touched the backside of his hand, and she felt its warmth on her fingertips. What did Krisu call you? I wonder. Okabe? Or was it Rintaro? Maybe. She didn't know, but it didn't matter. Pretty sure she called him an idiot. Hang in there, Okabe Rintaro. Is the man I fell in love with really that weak? She tried to think of how Krisu would say those words, and evidently, Rintaro's breathing started to become more peaceful. Relieved, she let go, and then she changed her mind and grabbed the hem of his shirt again. She felt embarrassed, as if she was a little kid, but at the same time, she felt like now, she might not have any more nightmares. That night, for the first time in a very long while, she dreamed of a smiling Krisu. Maho and I stayed at Ferris's house for several days after that. Now that Krisu's computer was destroyed, the odds that anyone would come after us had gone way down, but there was still a chance. Just to be extra careful, I stayed away from the lab. Maho, Rintaro. Dr. Leanskin looked a little thinner since the last time I'd seen him. Professor, I'm so glad you're safe. You too, Maho. Sounds like you had a rough time. Dr. Leanskin held tightly in his huge arms. She does not look happy whatsoever. The difference in size between the two was so great that Maho looked like some kind of stuffed animal. Professor, that hurts. You're hurting me. Dr. Leanskin and Maho were leaving the country in the afternoon on a weekday, so I was the only one who could see them off. Since I'd been with Maho the whole time, instead of only seeing them off, I actually just brought her there. Maho, after all, was the kind of person who was incapable of getting to an airport on her own. I was amazed she survived this long, given her lack of basic skills. We held Maho's goodbye party last night at Ferris's home. Ferris was there, as so was Mayuri and Daru, and the others from the Christmas party. All were sad to see her go. Rintaro, thanks for staying with Maho. You've been a great help. Not at all. So, when can he come to my lab? Huh? He wasn't kidding about that, huh? I'll study hard so I can go as soon as possible. Can I contact you when I'm ready? Of course, I'll be waiting. He smiled as he took my hand and shook it. I was really glad to hear it. After meeting Amadeus, my desire to go to Victor Condaria had only increased. Let me say this, Okabe. Let me say thanks, Okabe. Really. If it weren't for you, I might not be alive right now. You're exaggerating. No, I mean it. I'm really grateful. I'll be waiting for you, too, so do your best. Yeah, you too. Good luck with your research. So, Rintaro, as we discussed previously, I'm going to be revoking your access rights for Amadeus today. That's fine, right? Yes. Evidently they couldn't leave me the access to Amadeus after they left the country. I was only supposed to test it during their stay here anyway. Want to say a final goodbye to Krisu? Yeah, you're right. Can I say something to her quick? Of course. I tapped the icon for Amadeus. What? Do I get a goodbye too? Krisu was expressionless for some reason. I guess so. Do you not need one? I said goodbye to Maho before... You said goodbye to Maho before me, right? He did. Maho interjected before I could speak. I hope so. Also, I like how Leanskin smiled as she heard that. See, even though he's partly responsible for badness, I still like him. And he's still a cool guy. I hope so. Krisu was inside my screen. She was a... Was it a good thing that I'd spoken to her like this? Or a bad thing? In the end, I knew I needed to forget about Master Krisu, but I couldn't. I couldn't escape from this curse. Once I lose access rights, we won't be able to see each other anymore, will we? Well, I'm slightly grateful that you gave me someone to talk to. There's a chance of coming to Dr. Linskin's lab, right? I'll make sure to remember you until we meet again. It's such a tsunade. A character who is Sun, picky and cold in public, but also becomes dere, warm and loving in private. Also the personality type itself. However, in recent years, its definition has become somewhat vague. Tsundere, what's that? I don't use words I don't understand. Then why is your face red? She's blushing. Krisu is just very shy. Geez, not you too, Professor. Stay healthy. Probably isn't the right thing to say. You don't get sick. Don't tease Haijo too much. Right. You don't need to tell me. I already know. I hope so. I can't remember. Didn't they keep Amadeus rights in the last time they left? Really can't remember. Ah well. I hope so. Hope someday your smile doesn't look so sad. I hope someday you can smile for real. I guess even an AI could see right through me. Maske Krisu was one hell of a woman. And bye. Yeah. Krisu disappeared from my screen. I turned to Dr. Linskin and nodded, deleting the Amadeus icon from my screen. We'll handle the paperwork for the access reconnection on our own later. Thanks for your help with the testing. We've got some really valuable data. No, thank you. I bowed deeply to both Maho and Dr. Linskin. As I watched the plane take off into the distance, I noticed that it felt like there was a hole in my heart. I clutched my phone tightly. Its connection to Amadeus was gone. Oh. Passage or recognize? Oh. This is an awfully nice place. Kagari, from now on, you're officially my daughter. That was when Kagari was 6. She'd been living in a facility for war orphans and getting treatment at a dedicated clinic next door. It was a completely different place from the normal hospitals, which were overflowing from casualties from the war. It was in Idyllic Garden, shut off from the despair of the outside world so that children could live in peace. This is where she'd met her mom. Mom, Shia Mayuri, was a Class 2 caregiver at the facility who was always very nice to her. Really? You gonna be my real mommy? Yep, that's right. Yay! It was impossible to express with words how happy Kagari had felt. Being Mom's real daughter meant that Kagari had become her real name. Kagari became Shia Kagari. Hey, don't hug me so tight. You're so spoiled, Kagari. Then I can leave, right? I can leave with you, right? I'm sorry, looks like you need a little more treatment. That's right. Oh, doctor. Kagari didn't know the doctor's name, but he was a nice old man who was always kind to her. It's gonna be another 6 months, and then it's over. You'll have to hang in there until then. 6 months? When we talked about this before, you said 2 weeks. I was referring to physical wounds. The post-traumatic stress suffering suffered by children during the Great Bombing of Tokyo far exceeded that of adults. And we learned that her exam yesterday she's still having nightmares. Is that true, Kagari? That's not true. I don't have nightmares anymore. It's all fun dreams. Fun. Kagari, it's not good to lie. It'll only make your treatment take longer. Oh. You told me yesterday that you woke up with a nightmare, with nightmares all the time, still, don't you? Yeah. Oh my, I see. It's proof that the memory of the bomber still exists in her mind as terrifying experiences. If you don't treat them properly, it could lead to irreversible consequences. You're right. So, you don't mind if we continue with her treatment, do you, ma'am? Oh, of course. Kagari, let's do our best to beat the bad sickness, okay? Ma'am rubbed her head. Kagari felt so at peace that she could cry. Okay. Yep, that's my girl. Okay, see you later, Kagari. Ma'am took her hand away, and instead the doctor took Kagari's hand. She was taken to the usual room, where there was a white rectangular chair, and next to it some kind of medical system connected to a headset. I can hear the same voice as always. You need to protect your mother, protect this world. That's why you were born. God's voice, huh? She couldn't remember when she started hearing the voice. By the time she turned 6, whenever she was worried, uncertain or in trouble, she could hear it. But it was always kind and strong. It always cheered her up. In Kagari's childish mind, she started to think it might be the voice of God. Since only she could hear it, everyone else said it was just an illness, but Mom was the only person who believed her. I need to protect Mammy, so I need to work hard on my treatment. Kagari's young heart was filled with the hope that she could someday live with Mom. Moha's place? Mocha? As soon as she opened the door, she and Kagari were struck with an unpleasant wave of heat. It was early June, and this was the first day to hit summer temperatures. It was hot enough that just walking outside could cause you to sweat, but this small Japanese-style room had thick curtains, and the windows were closed. I just noticed a handprint on the left there. And you have the jacket at the bottom. This room was dark and cramped, and there were so many clothes on the floor that there was no place to stand. It wasn't just clothes, but there were all kinds of filthy things. Bags with high-end snacks, snack beads still in them. Half-rotted food packs, plastic convenience store bags overflowing with trash, all scattered around the room. Oh. And the area around the half-naked girl sitting around against the wall was covered in bandages and gauze, struck with blood and pus. There were bandages tied around her exposed stomach, chest and limbs, but these too were soaked with blood. The room was filled with a sickening sweet stench. There was no way of knowing if she was coming from the garbage or coming from her. Smiling? The owner of the room, Mocha, raised her head and looked at her eyes filled with hope. M4? You're still alive? When she saw Kagari, who was still wearing her shoes as she came into the room, her shoulders slumped. You're not FB? Who are you? That's an awful thing to say to the person who saved your life. Mocha gave a painful cough and spit some stomach fluid mixed with blood. It stained her thighs and the floor. Her wounds must have opened again, because the bandages around her stomach began to turn red. She spent 5 months like this, with no treatment from a doctor. Mocha had gone into a gunfight with the Russian army, and failed her mission as a rounder. She lost 2 of her comrades, and her target, Masker Chris's laptop, was also destroyed. They pinned the blame on her. She was wounded and almost killed. It was Kagari who saved her and brought her to this room. But if someone with a gunshot wound went to the hospital, the police would have noticed. The police would be notified, and for that reason, she'd never gotten any real treatment. Her wounds had become infected, and even 5 months later, they still brought her incredible pain. Her terrible fever hadn't let up at all, and it wasn't rare for it to go from 39 degrees to over 40. But Mocha didn't seem very interested in her wounds. She was more interested in sending messages with the phone in her hands. She must have been sending more messages to her beloved boss. In the past 5 months, she'd sent almost 1,000. Why, FB? Why wouldn't you answer me? FB was Mocha's boss in the Rounders. A woman who had always given orders to Mocha via text message. Mocha worshipped her, to a degree that far exceeded what could occur within a normal employee relationship. The shock of being abandoned by FB had hurt her many times more than her actual wounds. Kagari tossed the bag she had slung over her shoulders at Mocha's feet, with 2 plastic bags. The backpack was filled with medicine that wasn't available without a doctor's prescription. Along with it was a whole box of illegal drugs used for the treatment of severe pain. Normally these would be kept under strict control at a hospital, where no normal person could get them. Both of the plastic bags were filled with canned goods and other things Gary had chosen because they had the lowest probability of spoiling. If you don't feel like living anymore, tell me. I'll bring you poison instead. But Mocha didn't seem to notice Kagari at all anymore. She was completely unresponsive. Kagari had gotten used to her attitude over the last 5 months. But it wasn't just like going to go home today. She wasn't just going to go home today. She wordlessly reached for Mocha's cell phone. What are you doing? Mocha tried to resist, but evidently she had no strength left. Kagari was easily able to grab the phone. It was covered in blood and pus, but Kagari forced it into her pocket without hesitation. Give it back. Mocha started crawling towards her. It was like something out of a zombie movie. Don't get the wrong idea. You've got new orders from FB. Mocha froze. Orders from FB? Yeah, take it. Kagari took another cell phone out of her pocket. It was the same Japanese cell model that Mocha had been using, minus the dirt and bloodstains. The phone you've been using is under surveillance by the Russians and Americans, so she can't use it. So from now on, your orders will come in via this. Mocha reached a trembling hand out towards the phone. And in an instant, she snatched it away and clutched it to her chest like it was her own child. Will FB send me messages if I have this phone? You should have some already. Mocha quickly opened the screen on the phone, and when she saw the words on the screen, tears started to flow down her face. M4, my beloved daughter, it must have been so hard for you. I know it was hard for me. Your failure was unfortunate, but I'm very glad you're alive. Get better and wait for your next message, okay? This time, complete your mission successfully and regain my trust. I believe in the bottom of my heart, to my beloved daughter from FB. You didn't need to read it aloud. Of course, this message wasn't from FB. Kagari had written it herself. Keep someone at the brink of death for 5 months, then give them exactly what they want as bait, and you can easily put anyone under your control. Kagari knew this well. The life suddenly returned to Mocha's face. She spilled out the contents of Kagari's backpack like a woman possessed. I want to get better. I need to regain FB's trust. That's right, M4. Kagari smiled, satisfied. She knelt down in front of her. I'll treat you. Take off the bandages. When Kagari left the apartment, the sun had set. And I am ending this episode here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!